afraid of monsters? Of losing yourself? Of confronting what humanity really is when stripped of safety, comfort, and certainty? What if I told you the most terrifying thing might not be the creatures that hunt you, but the reflection they hold up to your own face? No, I'm not human doesn't merely ask you to survive. It asks you to decide who deserves survival, and in doing so, it asks what it means to be human at all. The summer begins like any other, or at least that's what the calendar claims. But the sun refuses to behave. It blazes hotter than it should, the kind of heat that makes asphalt shimmer and walls sweat. Heat waves stretch like molten fingers across cities. Wildfires consume forests with devouring hunger, and rivers dry to cracked, hollow skeletons of their former selves. Humanity retreats indoors, barred from the streets not by law, but by the burning, oppressive sky. People adapt to nocturnal living, venturing only when darkness falls, when shadows offer a fragile cloak. And yet, the sun is not the true threat. Not really. What waits in the night outside your doors is far more insidious. They call them visitors. Visitors are humans, but not as you know them. Some appear disturbingly normal, carrying the quiet rhythm of daily life in their gait or voice. Others are unsettling in ways you cannot name. A fraction too tall, a motion fractionally off, a gaze that lingers too long. They come seeking shelter, food, the warmth of human kindness, but every step, every word might carry a lethal intent. Let them in, and they may destroy you. Turn them away, and you may condemn an innocent life. And the worst part, you never truly know who is human and who has already become something else. The terror here is not in sudden screams, not in grotesque shapes, not in the contorted faces that seem to leer from the shadows. The horror is moral, psychological, a mirror held up to the choices you make when survival demands compromise. Every decision reveals something about you. Every interaction is a test, weighing empathy against instinct, compassion against necessity. The game strips away certainty and replaces it with doubt, the kind that gnaws at you in the quiet hours when only your breath and the faint hum of the night remain. The streets are empty, doors are bolted, lights flicker in the distance, a ghostly reassurance or perhaps a warning. You can hear the faint rustle of leaves in the dead gardens, the subtle drip of condensation from cracked pipes, the creak of floorboards somewhere upstairs. The night stretches long and you realize it is not the monsters you should fear. It is the silence between them. It is the knowledge that survival is measured not by strength, but by the choices you are forced to make. And those choices, how you judge, whom you trust, whom you condemn, reflect not just the world around you, but the parts of yourself you are too afraid to see. In this world, in this night, in the fragile hush between chaos and catastrophe, you are the lens through which morality is tested, and the mirror it holds up is merciless. At first, the signs seem almost trivial: hairless armpits, red eyes, fungal growth, perfectly white teeth, minor oddities that accumulate, building doubt in the player's mind. Each visitor is a riddle. Are they infected? Are they truly a visitor? Or are they simply human? Every decision takes energy, a limited resource that forces you to weigh moral responsibility against survival. Some visitors are clearly monstrous, pale, liminal, movements that are subtly wrong, voices that hum just below comprehension. The pale man, different from others, exudes authority and menace. He doesn't hide, he confronts you directly, capable of overwhelming even armed soldiers. And yet, he is not the source of this contagion. He is a symptom, a product of something deeper, fungal, Mycelial, insidious. Other visitors are pitiable. The burned firefighter, the timid girl, the neighbor's daughter all carry hallmarks of vulnerability, yet might harbor the infection. Early in the game, you meet the cashier girl. She evokes sympathy. Timid lines, uneven shoulders, anxious gaze, and yet she is a visitor. Allow her in, and she will eventually kill. Killing her feels wrong, impossible. It is a moral paradox. The human who destroys versus the visitor who appears human. The game forces introspection. Are your choices guided by empathy, by bias, by instinct, or by exhaustion? Survival depends on ruthlessly dehumanizing others, but the cost is the slow erosion of your own humanity. Each decision feels heavier, each night longer. Your energy dwindles, your moral compass wavers, and every knock at the door becomes a trial, a question posed in silence. Who are you willing to condemn? Who will you save? And at what cost? Visitors are not merely infected humans. They are conduits of a larger, more ancient life. Fungi and mycelial networks permeate the world, infiltrating basements, soil beneath homes, even the bodies of those you shelter. Their presence is subtle, almost invisible, a curling thread beneath the floorboards, a faint luminescence in damp corners, spores drifting in the air like whispers of inevitability. The pale man's transformation is a grotesque echo of a parasitic fungal life cycle, a living emblem of decay and adaptation. He thrives in rot, feeding on what others discard, spreading silently through cracks, floors, and walls, imperceptible until it is too late. Every encounter with him reinforces this metaphor. His movements are deliberate, predatory, almost ritualistic, as though he is both a product and agent of a larger unseen network. The game emphasizes the fungal logic at every turn, the invisible threads connecting one infected site to another, the symbiotic and parasitic relationships between visitor and host, predator and prey. He adapts to human defenses with a chilling efficiency, anticipating hesitation, exploiting empathy, and punishing moral compromise. In his presence, the player begins to understand the fungal worldview, slow, patient, indifferent to morality, yet terrifyingly effective. Life does not wait for ethics, and in this world, the pale man is both teacher and inevitability. Fungi are indifferent. They recycle death into life, propagate without intent, reshape the ecosystem on their own inscrutable logic. In doing so, they reflect the game's central lesson. Humanity is fragile, but life, in its various forms, will find a way. The boundaries between human and visitor blur. Survival requires understanding, and sometimes embracing, the logic of the fungi. Environmental storytelling reinforces this at every turn. Mushrooms sprouting beneath your feet, mycelial threads creeping in basements, spores drifting from broken ventilation. Every catastrophe, fire, flood, decay, is a petri dish, a stage for adaptation and growth. Your choices may save lives, but life itself is indifferent, continuing regardless of human morality. Isolation is absolute. You are alone, confined, walls closing in like a living thing, constantly measuring every knock, every gaze, every carefully chosen word. The house becomes a crucible, a lens that magnifies every instinct and impulse. Each visitor who approaches the door is a question posed to your humanity. Who is worthy? Who is expendable? Who meets the arbitrary threshold of human enough to endure another night? Your decisions are no longer abstract. They carry immediate devastating consequences. A single misjudgment, a misplaced act of trust, and your household may be annihilated in seconds. Within this claustrophobic microcosm, societal structures emerge in the shadows, silent but omnipresent. FEMA agents, masked government units, bureaucrats in black uniforms. All figures of institutional authority move through the world as indifferent arbiters, confiscating guests, enforcing rules, meting out punishment, with no regard for morality, circumstance, or human life. Their presence mirrors the cold mechanics of real world systems: control, bureaucracy, surveillance, the unyielding machinery of law and policy. The tension between your personal ethics and these impersonal structures is constant. But perhaps the most unsettling revelation is that humans themselves are often as dangerous as the visitors you fear. Cruelty, entitlement, selfishness, and pettiness lurk in those who appear normal. Encounters with neighbors or strangers reveal the moral failure is not exclusive to the infected. The game blurs the distinction between monstrosity and human fallibility, forcing you to confront an uncomfortable truth. Evil does not always wear a monstrous face. Judging a visitor is complex, fraught with uncertainty and potential miscalculation. Judging a human seems deceptively simple, but even this is a test. Does morality survive when survival demands compromise? Does empathy endure when the stakes are life or death? The game constantly probes your ethical core, stretching the limits of compassion and pragmatism. Every choice, every hesitation, every act of exclusion or mercy is recorded in the quiet ledger of conscience. The player is confronted with a question that grows heavier with each passing night. What fragments of humanity are you willing to sacrifice, to endure, to survive, to preserve the fragile thread of life that still clings to your home? And perhaps most terrifying of all, are you willing to become the kind of person you once feared in order to live? The final horror is not the monsters. It is the quiet, unavoidable realization that survival may demand of becoming like them: cold, calculating, and unbound by conventional morality. The title, No, I'm Not Human, is more than a confession. It is an evolution, a subtle unraveling of self. Isolation, repeated moral compromise, and constant exposure to the fungal contagion erode the boundaries of identity. Each choice strips away another layer of innocence, empathy, or certainty until the line between human and visitor blurs into obscurity. Throughout the game, every figure, the pale man, the infected visitors, even seemingly mundane humans, echoes the same lesson. Survival is not about righteousness or cruelty, it is about adaptation. By the 14th day, whether the protagonist endures or falls, the world itself has transformed. The fungi have grown more insidious, more pervasive, spreading through every hidden corner, thriving in decay. The pale man has evolved, mastering patience, cunning, and predation. Humanity's moral certainties have been tested, stretched, and fractured, leaving only questions where clarity once existed. And those questions are merciless. What does it truly mean to be human when morality, empathy, and survival collide? Are you willing to kill the pitiable to protect yourself? To preserve a fragile bubble of safety? Can you resist becoming the thing you once feared? Or have your choices already reshaped your very essence, turning the survivor into a mirror of the monsters they sought to avoid? The game concludes, but its echo lingers. You are left alone with your decisions, your failures, the weight of lives spared or lost, and the creeping silent logic of a world that does not bend to human notions of good and evil. Every corner of the house, every shadow in the night whispers the same truth. Life continues indifferent to virtue, cruelty, or intention. And in that silence, in that suspended space between judgment and survival, the true horror resides. This is No, I'm Not Human, a mirror held up to our fears, our choices, and the fragile fungible boundary between life, morality, and survival. A game that does not merely tell a story, it forces you to confront yourself.